Instead of returning to Maud Gonne and discussing his love poems, I want to choose war as my next example of how Yeats got personal. Let's rewind to World War I. This war is well known for its highly moving poetry. In fact, I think of these poems as precursors of confessionalism. But Yeats excluded all of it when he edited the Oxford Book of Modern Verse in the 1930s. I certainly do not agree with his decision, but I do want to take a look at where the difference lies between such poets and Yeats. As an example, I would take one of the most famous and successful of these war poems, Dulce et decorum est. And because it's not Wilfred Owen night, I'll just read the last stanza, and you'll get the point. If in some smothering dreams you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in, and watch the white eyes writhing in his face, his hanging face, like a devil's, sick of sin, if you could hear at every jolt the blood come gargling from the froth-corrupted lungs, obscene as cancer, bitter as the cud of vile, incurable sores on innocent tongues, my friend, you would not tell with such high zest to children ardent for some desperate glory the old lie, dulce et decorum est, pro patria mori. That poem is obviously very personal. It's so effective because it forces us to look closely at the details of war and death. Yeats also wrote a World War I poem, even though he had never seen any action in any war. But World War I took the son of his old friend, Lady Gregory. And the poem that Yeats wrote for Major Gregory stands up, in my opinion, against any poem written by any combatant in any war. The poem is first person from the point of view of Major Gregory, who was a pilot shot down over Italy by friendly fire. Yeats knew nothing of flying a plane, and he completely misrepresents Major Gregory, who was actually eager to fight the war. The poem is An Irish Airman Foresees His Death. I know that I shall meet my fate somewhere among the clouds above. Those that I fight, I do not hate. Those that I guard, I do not love. My country is Kiltartan Cross. My countrymen, Kiltartan's poor. No likely end could bring them loss, or leave them happier than before. Nor law nor duty bade me fight, nor public men, nor cheering crowds. A lonely impulse of delight drove to this tumult in the clouds. I balanced all, brought all to mind. The years to come seemed waste of breath, a waste of breath the years behind, in balance with this life, this death. In its own way, this poem is just as gut-wrenching as Wilfred Owen's. What Yeats lacks in physical detail, he gains in simplicity. What he lacks in accuracy, he gains in truth. The devastation is not of the flesh, but of the spirit. And notice we are still on Yeats's central theme, that powerful connection to another world, that lonely impulse of delight, and how that other world threatens to cast a pall over this one. But Yeats's poetry is never depressing. Even at its saddest, it never stops being beautiful. There's always music to a Yeats poem. It's true he was one of the last great formalists, but Yeats's music went beyond meter. Yeats was tone deaf, which did not serve him well when he was scoring plays, and may have been part of why he was so avant-garde in the theater. But it did not impede him as a poet. In fact, his single greatest talent, in my opinion, is his ear. He doesn't just speak of other worlds, he creates the voice of other worlds. Many critics with many different theories have accepted the greatness of this poet. His poems sound right. They are self-evidently great. It then becomes the critic's burden to figure out how his theory works for the poem, and not the other way around. Rosenthal, the editor of this anthology, wrote a fantastic introduction. I recommend it. But he wants to say that there is an arc to Yeats, that his earlier poetry was exceeded by his later poetry. And I may have given that impression myself, but it is simply not true. Yeats revised poems many times over periods of many years. He created a single great body of work, stretching from youth to old age. As Rosenthal himself says, the music is always there, from first poem to last poem. It is convincing, mythic, personal, intimate, universal. In other words, I am introducing a poet who needs no introduction whatsoever.